Hi, my name is CJ and this is my RC channel. Okay, I'm going to cover a couple things here on gears and then I'm going to move on to rear and front wing. These are the, well, this is the one pinion gear that comes with the kit, and it is a 25 tooth pinion. And I've already screwed a grub screw into here that I had some blue Loctite on drying. I put all my miscellaneous grub screws on this little piece of plastic bag here and dripped blue Loctite on them and let it dry, and so I can just pick them up and screw them on in. And it's always good to have the grub screws, you know, ready and in your various gears. If you leave the grub screws loose, they tend to get lost, so you should have one grub screw for each gear. Now I'm going to be changing my gears around a little bit. I found a company, I'll try to get a link and put that in the description on the videos. I'll probably make a list of all the different mod parts when I get to doing the modifications. I'm going to start with the stock gearing, and I got two smaller gears. As I said, it has a 25 tooth, and then I bought a pair from Tamiya, a 23 and a 22. Now, gearing can be hard to understand sometimes. If you've ever ridden a bicycle with multiple speeds, you know that the smaller front gears make it easier to pedal and give you lots of power, but you go slow, and they're great for climbing hills. So the smaller your front gear, the slower you're going to go, but the more power that you have, the more torque. In other words, the more acceleration you get. You may not go as fast as on a top speed, but you're going to get to that top speed a whole lot faster. And that's important for, you know, coming out of turns, when you've got a long straightaway, and you come around that and you're trying to out drag someone to the corner, having that extra push is really good. So the idea behind gearing your car, because you only have one gear, there's no transmission, so you want to set it up, and even if you had a transmission, you would want to set your high gear to the point where it is the max speed you can reach on the longest straightaway. In other words, if you get to the end of the straightaway and the motor's still got, you know, another 2,000 or 3,000 RPMs, you're wasting power. You should be going with a lower gear, and that gives you more punch coming out of turns, accelerating, you know, from low speed up to high speed. So, you know, that way you can, you know, out accelerate the other cars. So there is remember when I was doing the build of the diff, and I told you that, you know, more than 6 gears, six diff balls would be much smoother, you know, whether it was 8 or 10 or 12, and that the pack of ceramic diff balls that I ordered, and I think they are a Tamiya product, and yeah, that's right, they're Tamiya Racing. They provide 12. Tamiya makes an adapter for the F104. I keep missing that. I guess it's late at night and I'm tired. In any event, they make a little adapter that allows you to use touring car spur gears, and those have more diff ball holes. So I found a company that aftermarket makes some really nice Delrin gears. They make a variety of custom products for Mini Zs and different Tamiya products. And in any event, they have several gears. I bought a couple of different ones, so I've got some, you know, gear ratios to play with. And they also have a limited slip feature which is kind of hard to describe. I'll show you when I get them. The balls basically have an elliptical chamber they sit in instead of a fully round one, and it's kind of got a little ramp in it. So the more torque that's applied, the more that ball rides up the ramp and bites harder and causes more friction. So when you really hammer on it, the more torque you apply, the more the rear end tries to act like a locker and just give you straight line speed and stability instead of, you know, one wheel spinning free and the car fishtailing and spinning out on you. So that's why drag racers have either a posi traction or a lock differential, so that they can accelerate in a straight line and stay straight without losing control, or hopefully not losing control. So that's going to be interesting to play with, and I've got a couple of pinion gears to go with those gears because they're smaller. This is the 104 tooth that comes stock with this, and it uses 6 diff balls. The ones I'm getting use all 12, and that's going to make for a very smooth, very controlled differential action. Even Tamiya recommends making that upgrade and change. So that's very nice to have. So these are going to go into one of my parts boxes here shortly, and these 2 extra grub screws are going to get set aside for later. Okay, so let's talk wings. Interesting thing about the F104 kit and the other Tamiya kits is that they use the same bolt pattern for the front and rear wings on all of their cars. Not only do they do it, but several other manufacturers, in fact maybe all as far as I know, use the same bolt pattern and layout, the same mounting style, so that the wings are interchangeable. For example, this is a wing made by Protoform that is for the F104. It's for the X-Ray. It fits a handful of Formula-1 vehicles. It doesn't list them on this little card here, but in there, if you look it up on their website, they list a bunch of cars that this works with. And I'm probably going to use this instead of the stock wing, and I will explain why. Let me just pull it out so we can look at it. And then for comparison, I need to pull out the stock wing. Now, one of the reasons I bought these extra wings, and I actually bought 2 of the Protoforms, is because this is one of the most easily broken parts on the car. That and the front end suspension. So that's why I went ahead and bought the extras. Now, if you look at this wing, it's got all these little ridges on it because they're trying to create a true-to-life appearing wing. And a true-to-life wing would have they've kind of changed the spec over the years. The formula is now different. The front wings don't have quite as many of these Venetian blind like vanes as they used to. I think it's like limited to like 3 levels or 4 levels now. And in any event, this is not going to help us because these are not individual vanes. There's no air passing in between them. They don't have individual shapes. So that's more likely to cause turbulence than really provide much in the way of downforce. They give us these extra pieces here, which also attach these 2 holes. They almost have to be there because the wing looks kind of ridiculous with the holes in it without the part there. And again, those don't necessarily really they're more looks than they are function. They're supposed to, you know, deviate the air away from the air intakes so the air doesn't go under the body of the car. It's supposed to make the air go around the to the pontoons and to the inlets for the radiators for better cooling. This is not a real car. It does not have radiators. We do not have a perfectly flat underpan. We are not trying to deviate air around the car. So that just doesn't really help us. The Protoform wing, on the other hand, is nice, smooth plastic, and it is designed first and foremost to be a functional airfoil, second off to look like a Formula 1 wing. And we have 3 different options for how much downforce we want. We can use the wing as it is, and we can use the wing with this single vane, which is going to bolt on right there, or on right here, excuse me, and gives us another level of downforce. Or we can mount this one, which has a really steep air dam here and gives us a lot of downforce. So one of the nice things is that you buy a couple of these, you set one up with the medium downforce, one with the high downforce. You take the car out on the track, you do some laps, you see how it's handling. If it's not getting enough steer, if you're not having enough turn in, especially in high speed turns, the car's pushing a little bit, come in, unbolt this one, bolt on the other one. Another thing I like about the Protoform wing is that it's white. And Tamiya, the parts are only available in black, as I recall. You can always paint it, but then you're adding weight and it can chip off. If it flexes, it can crack, and you've got to get plastic paint. I like light colors, especially for smaller cars. Usually I'm running on asphalt, and if I'm not racing outdoors on asphalt, it's indoors on carpet, which is also, you know, dark gray. So dark colored cars kind of blend in, and I want to see the car as clearly as possible. So that's why I like the lighter colors. Also, if you want to paint it, white is going to take the paint much better than black. Black, you may have to actually prime it to be able to, or you're going to have to do multiple coats to be able to get a lighter color to really show up and not be kind of drowned out by the black plastic. So, as I said, you know, having the ability to have multiple wings and have them each set up differently, if all you got to do is switch a couple of screws or unbolt a couple of vanes and bolt on a couple of new different vanes to get that, you know, different ground force effect, that's really nice. So I will be assembling that in a minute. Let's talk about rear wings. This is our Tamiya wing along with a couple of other parts. And as I believe I mentioned already, X-Ray makes excellent wings, and their wings have the exact same bolt pattern, so you can bolt an X-Ray wing right onto the back of this Formula car and vice versa. And as I recall, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that I am correct, X-Ray currently makes 2 widths of wings, and they're also adjustable. So if you are you know, trying to get you know, more downforce in the rear, you know, having a wider wing that is at the same angle as a narrower wing is going to provide more downforce. So that's going to be something interesting to potentially switch back and forth some different wings and try them out in real world conditions and see what they do for us. Now these are those vanes that go on the side of the body. Let me just try to find you an image of that that's clear. Again, this is Tamiya making a very picture perfect body versus necessarily something that is truly of aerodynamic benefit. Okay, you can see them right here. They kind of stand off the side of the body pod and are, you know, again, had they been designed in a wind tunnel by an aerodynamicist, you know, with a high level of skill and a whole lot of testing, they might actually do something. But it's just a piece of plastic that gets bolted on to make this appear like a Formula 1 car of a particular year and era. And that's really not of benefit. It's just dead weight, in my opinion, and not worth it. So let's see, do they don't put the screws in the bag for us, so they're in one of the other bags. So I'll rummage those up. See, these are those plastic vanes, and you know, that's not going to give you like more straight line stability down the track. I mean, it's just not. I just don't see that as being functional. So this is the base for our wing. This is what bolts to the back of our car here, and then these side plates are going to screw on here like this, and then our upper wing section is going to mount like this or down. So we've got, when they say adjustable, they really mean two positions. It might be interesting to Dremel this out and smooth those edges there and have this be variable, so that you can, you know, have, you know, 3 or more possible positions. There's only so much space there that in between, but it would give you at least, you know, 3 to 5 options at, you know, a 1 or less degrees of angle change. So let me look up the screw size for those. Go ahead and set that aside. Okay, 2x8s and some little screws. So those are some fairly small pieces of hardware. They are probably in this bag here. Let me just throw a little trash away. Set some tools and stuff out of the way so I got room to work. Okay. And like I said earlier, in an earlier video, you're going to see a lot of parts that we are not using in this kit. Things that were just on the parts tree from previous builds. For example, remember the shock absorbers? We had that in the bag of high-end shock parts. We had that nice either nylon or Delrin 3-hole piston, the white shock piston that looks like it was CNC machined and not molded, versus these pistons here, which, you know, are kind of D-shaped because of the flashing that's going to come when they're cut free. They're not totally round. There can be, you know, variations in the molding where you're just not getting a really smooth, clean product there. And they don't even mention this parts tree as far as those items go. It's, you know, you go right to that nice bearing. You know, other parts like these may have been for a you know, a pseudo version of that shock absorber. These little lock rings, they look like spring spacers. Instead of cheap shock absorbers would use these little clips to adjust the preload on your spring, instead of having a threaded shock body and an adjuster ring that you can turn down. You would slide your spring down a bit and snap in a spacer or two, and you know, things like that, that just they're just still on the parts tree, because there's no point in redesigning the molding process. They just give you all these bonus parts. So I've just got a bag here with, you know, unused and extra items, because you never know when you might, you know, find a use for one of those parts. And if not, someday they find their way into the trash. So yeah, here are all of our screws for the wing. We got some extra body screws here. I'm just gonna drop those in there for later. I'm gonna try and sort out some of this. This is what this bag looks like, and what we are going to be needing for these wings and such is these little silver screws and the little nuts that go with them. Those are all M2s versus all the other hardware in this kit is M3s. That's another thing that's very nice about this kit, is the hardware is extremely consistent. Almost everything is one Allen wrench size. Almost every single piece of hardware is an M3 millimeter piece of hardware, and that just makes repairs, cleanings where you disassemble and reassemble, much easier. This is that two-sided tape that I mentioned. When you when the body is, if you section the body instead of just using the single body to put on the other pontoons, you have this two-sided tape to join the sections, and then they also use some screws. Okay, the black hardware is the M3 stuff, with the exception of a couple of small self-tapping screws. I'm going to go ahead and pull all this out of here, and I'm going to drop it into the big hardware dish that I have over here, and eventually all that stuff will get sorted and put in little parts boxes, all the extra hardware. It's kind of interesting that these standoffs here, they provided 2 extras. I don't know why. They were just in the kit, and we only needed 2 of them. There's no other place that these would be used or where they would go, but here they are. So we need 4 2x6. Yeah, that's these little black ones right here, the little countersunk ones. And those are a very small Phillips head. Let's see if our small screwdriver from Tamiya fits these. And it does. Very nice. One of the nice things about having these little handles and then the big handle that slides over them is when you're working with really small hardware, using the small handle prevents you from potentially over torquing the screws, because it's harder to put your strength into the little handle versus the big one. I got this facing the right direction. No, I don't. I'm doing that wrong. Okay. This bolts in like that, so this goes on this side facing up. And I definitely want to try the X-ray wings. X-ray is kind of, I mean, it's opinion, but they certainly think that they are the best. And they describe their kits as luxury kits. Certainly they use really high quality materials. Everything is anodized and, you know, polished and just looks like quality. And they spend a lot of time testing and designing, and they bring out new Formula-1 models on a very rapid basis, sometimes every year a new model or an enhanced model. And a lot of the parts you know, are not retroactive. They can be used on previous models. So if you buy a kit in 2020 and in 2024 they've had a whole bunch of different upgrades on 2 different models, a lot of that stuff is going to trickle down to your car. Some of it, you know, if the changes have been radical, is not going to work, but they do try to make stuff like that backwards compatible is the term that I was looking for. And my point in bringing up X-ray again is that their wings are definitely going to be tested. I don't think they're, you know, running them through a wind tunnel necessarily, but they're definitely doing a lot of field testing as far as you know, what designs that they create or prototype have more downforce or less than, you know, another part. And they spend a lot of time doing research and development on their cars. So their wings, since they do fit this car, are probably far more likely than anyone else's wings to give you a usable result that you can you know, really kind of play with the adjustment and you know, I think you understand where I'm going. So now we need 4 of these little M2 nuts and 4, they are countersunk of these slightly longer screws here. So now we have to slide the nuts down into there. They basically just drop in. So I'm going to start by putting 2 in on one side because I don't want to drop them or have them fall out. The end with the little drop in the middle here, that's the top of the wing. Okay, I'm going to leave that loose for now. And I'm going to set this for the steepest of the 2 angles and thus the most downforce, just for the initial first test run. See how that does, what it does. I can tighten the first one a little more. And now put 2 nuts in on this side. I'm going to go ahead and pause for a minute since you've already seen most of this. Okay, now we take 2 of the button head 3x10s, and we are going to just start with 1, put it through the back of the wing there, and just start getting that threaded in. Now we can take our second one, Now the first one started. Not sure why they went with 3x10s. 3x8s would have been fine. I'm tightening these things all day. There is our rear wing. Styling. Okay, that's going to be interesting to see how these bolt on, because those holes are not the same as those two holes, but again, this is the same bolt pattern as the Tamiya wing. Now there's also a little nose piece for the body. Seems I packed this away too soon. See, as you can see, the bolt pattern here, 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 it's exactly the same. I mean, you can look down through one, through the other. They are made identical. Even this little piece here is the same. So, we also have this nose piece here. This goes underneath the nose of the body. And cutters. So let's see how this all goes together. Let's get the directions. Okay, now this is not the Tamiya body, this is the Biddy design body. Let's compare that against the Tamiya body and see if the cutaway is the same. Where did I put that? Got it. Okay. Stock Tamiya body. Let me move the car so you can see better. Okay, stock Tamiya body, stock Biddy design body. And so the nose is a little different. So probably won't be following the design exactly. This may not. Okay, I'm probably gonna have to like kind of trim this out partially and set it on the chassis and kind of trim away at it until it fits correctly. Interesting question is, how does this come into play? I see that it bolts on here, but there aren't holes on here. Now that doesn't mean I can't drill them. That would be simple enough to do, but it may not even be necessary. See, again, this is trying to create a certain aesthetic look. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please click like and please subscribe to my channel.